tutorial on Aseret the Big Ten source book training. This is on law tinof, do not commit adultery, and the core value we'll be exploring is when loyalty is challenged. My goal is to help you to get ready for your own session. I'm not going to go through every point in the source book, so please read it either before or after. What I do want to do is give you an overview of the structure in each section, add some background information and insights that are not found in the book, and maybe make some suggestions how to make it as good as you can. Please note, there is a lot of material in this booklet. No ways you can get through it in an hour, even an hour and a half. Either do 2 sessions or make sure you know what the sessions are. Choose some or let the group choose which you are going to discuss. Okay, let's get on with the overview. This booklet goes like this. There are 6 sections. The first section is a very brief introduction, which really talks about how this Diber should be relevant to all relationships. Then the Pshat, the literal understanding we're going to is talking about marriage. Then we go into third section over here at the bottom of page 2 is just the underlying principle. The first one we're going to discuss is covenant. Marriage is unique in terms of relationships because it's considered a covenant. We also have a covenant with God that is explored in the text on page 3, page 4 for the conversation. And then we get into a very cute discussion about who to marry and how society deals with the process. Cute but relevant. Then we go into the next underlying principle, which is the one we're focusing really on, loyalty. In Hebrew, emunah. And we'll go through that on page 5. And then on page 6, we get into, well, how does this apply to other relationships? Page 7 and 8 continue that conversation. And then that ends off with this beautiful part from Martin Buber about how to go from a utilitarian relationship to a human connection. Okay, let's get into the details over here. So do not commit adultery, lo tinof, when loyalty is challenged. The first thing is to note that lo tinof, as we're going to explain in the next section, here, lo tinof is do not commit adultery. And what is that talking about? Rashi says it's talking about marriage, having an extramarital sexual relationship. Very specific. As a Diber, we need to expand that. What does that have to do with every single relationship, with all our relationships? So let's get into the second section, the Peshat. What's fascinating is, therefore, marriage is a commitment to an exclusive sexual relationship. And of course, the fascinating question here in the conversation is there emotional infidelity? Do you make an exclusive emotional commitment in marriage, either essentially or maybe it's a problem because of what it might lead to? Okay, as the next section is, a contract is give and take, but a covenant is the coming together of 2 or more parties in order to create something for mutual benefit. And that is the merging of identities from the I to the we. We know that in marriage, ketuvah spells out this covenant. This relationship, this covenantal relationship, is also the relationship God has with the Jewish people and Jewish people have with God. So we go through that in the text over here. What's interesting is a covenant in Hebrew is a brit. And that's what God says to Abraham, V'hakamoti et briti beini ubenecha. I will establish my brit, my covenant between me and you. And then, of course, it went through the children was, of course, the 10 Commandments are called V'yaged lechem et brito. He told you his covenant. And that's because, as we discussed in the introductory session to the whole course, that the 10 Commandments, of course, were the the content of the covenant that we entered into with God. This tells us about that it's an everlasting covenant, and of course marriage as being a covenant. What's interesting over here in the questions on the next page, top of page 4, is how to break covenantal relationships. We know that our relationship with God never ends, but the relationship with man and wife goes to get. And so says Vilna Gaon, these two letters, the Gimel and the Tet, are the only place that they occur next to each other is in this word get. The dissolution of the marriage document. Okay, the next section is 4. It's, as I said before, a very cute but relevant conversation about how we go about finding a marriage partner and different societal customs about it. Now we get into the 5th section, is really the meat of the course, and that is emunah. And that is the Hebrew word for faithfulness is emunah. Emunah, faithfulness, is a loyal adherence to commitments and promises. And that, you know, these phrases are kind of interchangeable, loyalty and faithfulness. Emunah, we often translate as faith, but that's a mistake. It really means faithful, and it's a central theme in our relationship we have with God. And it means that, you know, relationships are not necessarily devoid of struggle with commitment, and that's what is being asked of us over here. The first source over here defines the word emunah, talking about Moses' hands. V'yihi yadav emunah. His hands were stable. And then fascinating over here is that how in God's essential name, Adonai, which is spelled Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, we don't even say it, it's so holy, connotates faithfulness. And of course, the tzaddik, tzaddik be'emunato yichyeh, the tzaddik lives through his faithfulness. Is that in his understanding that God is faithful? Is that in him being faithful? And obviously, it's probably both. And what is the relationship between faithfulness, emunah, and trust, bitachon? And I think the answer to that is it's the two sides of a relationship. I trust those who I know are faithful to me, and so to those who know that I'm faithful will trust me. Then we get into the next section. Is the next section is the 6th section, and that is how does this play out in other relationships? And fascinating. Really read that introduction carefully. It's beautiful. To children, what are we obligated towards them? What are the commitments of the relationship to know what we need to be loyal about? Children, obviously, the relationship with parents is its own Diber. Honor your mother, your father and mother. Keeping secrets as a part of the commitment of relationships. Then on page 7, we deal with friends and family, the differences. What about community? May your home be open, wide to the poor. May the poor be members of your household. Right? That we are living in a community, we're responsible to them. And even the commitment of a student and teacher. If you don't challenge your teacher, you're not living up to the commitment. And the questions over here. Then we move on to the next section, which is here on page 9, is this Martin Buber piece, which really is taking us from the utilitarian relationship to the human condition. I, it, to what he calls the I, thou. And the questions over here, obviously with integration, such an important core value for life. You know, where does these principles converted into guiding principles for life about a core value of being loyal in every relationship? Where can it be applied? What are the challenges you will face, and how do you overcome them? Every day, check in with friends and family. Often, of course, the Harvard study that the best thing for longevity and happiness are good relationships, and some supplemental materials and the rest of the booklet. How does loyalty relate to your social action project and the individuals affected by it? And of course, in all relationships. Thank you for listening.